That's the next question, Bryan. Let's get right into it, right? What happens if Teofimo Lopez beats Josh Taylor? What does that mean for a guy like Teofimo Lopez?
If Teofimo Lopez wins this fight, like I would want to see how he does it, right? Is it like squeaking one out like the Sandor Martin fight? Because then people are going to just blame it on home field advantage. Because at the end of the day, this is in New York City. He's from New York City. He's from Brooklyn. This is going to be at Madison Square Garden. Well, the theater at Madison Square Garden. I don't know why it's not at the big house, but whatever. But look, there's a lot of things there. First, in terms of the boxing piece of this, I think it cements Teofimo Lopez as the best at 140, perhaps other than Regis Prograis, because he would beat Josh Taylor if especially if he does it in like a unanimous decision, or even if it's a stoppage, which I suppose is possible. Because look, Teofimo Lopez hasn't looked very explosive. Uh, Last time we saw him, he didn't, and I think that he could again. If he does, he will return as one of the most explosive fighters in the sport, which he was not last time out. But that's the reputation that he's had leading up to at least the Vasily Lomachenko fight. And the interesting thing here is that would he leave Top Rank? Because he sort of hinted at this. He's hinted that this would be his last fight, but then Teofimo Sr. had to play cleanup and say, listen, man, this is a direct quote. Listen, man, people say things in a moment. We're going to fight with Top Rank until our contract is over with, which is like less than a year. So I think we're going to have one more fight or two more. We have a contract, so we have to fight. He understood that what he said was wrong. So it appears that, at least for the time being, Teofimo Lopez will remain at Top Rank, which then opens the door for, I gave you the contender sort of rankings. Arnold Barbosa's there. Jose Ramirez is there. There's some interesting fights there. However, there could also be a rematch with Josh Taylor, from what I understand, right?
Yeah,
There's a rematch clause for this fight if Josh Taylor loses.
which like that's smart for Josh Taylor to have, right? Because coming into this fight, I think Josh Taylor actually Teofimo Lopez has more to lose if he loses this fight. Way more to lose because coming into this fight, I think there's more questions about him, especially when you take a look at that Sandor Martin fight. Now, I think he won, he edged it out. At first, I didn't, as I mentioned. However, at the end of that fight, what was the biggest story? Him asking his team if he still had it. Like there was doubt in Teofimo Lopez's face. And that's the thing. It's half of it is the mental battle. I mean, we've had boxers on this show recently, Heather Hardy, and she was talking about how, listen, a lot of it is mental.
Yeah.
And coming into this fight, I think Teofimo Lopez knows how much is riding on it. If he doesn't have a good performance, what are we going to be saying about him next? And then I think he automatically falls out of like the top 5 at 140. But here's the thing. If he does beat Josh Taylor, we'll have to really take Teofimo Lopez a little bit seriously. I think he has a lot of haters. I think a lot of people don't believe in him, but this is a guy that beat Nakatani, knocked out Richard Comey, and listen, he convincingly beat Lomachenko. Devin Haney didn't. Teofimo Lopez did. Like, let's give the man some credit. And regardless of how you saw that Sandor Martin fight, which is a tougher fight than Jose Pedraza, he's 2-0 at 140 pounds. Like, we have to talk about that as well. He had a reign at 135. So I think we got to start putting some more respect on Teofimo Lopez's name. If he gets this victory against Josh Taylor, automatically one of the best at 140. We got to start talking about him again. And then I think it sets up a fight possibly with, Jose Ramirez, which I think would be a big fight, or maybe Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barbosa Jr. fight to see, whoever wins that gets the winner of Josh Taylor or Teofimo Lopez. But I think there are some really good fights there. He's still under the Top Rank banner. So big fights can get made. And depending on if he decides to stay or not after, we'll see. But I think he has to get this victory first. But if he doesn't and he has 2 L's, I think there's some issues there for Teofimo Lopez. Because then we're talking about, well, Sandor Martin wasn't convincing. Like, is his power translating at 140? And there's those questions there. So I think it's a bigger and more important fight for Teofimo Lopez. And hey, it's a good thing there is a rematch clause. But that's more for Josh Taylor because if he loses, he's going to activate that clause.
And then Teofimo Lopez will have to beat him again, and that's going to be interesting. Presumably, this is why Honor Barbosa and Jose Ramirez should just fight, right?
Yeah.
But presumably, that would be Heisman night because they're fighting in June. If there's a rematch, It would be in December, is my guess, unless Josh Taylor wants to take another 16 months off. Kidding. Look, Teofimo Lopez, as you said, the only person to beat Vasily Lomachenko convincingly. I think that's something worth noting. Vasily Lomachenko has 3 losses. One of them is bullshit. And then you have the Devin Haney one, which is controversial. But the Salido one is straight up bullshit. This guy, Teofimo Lopez, and this is why this fight is so hard to handicap. He's an underdog, which we're going to get into more in our betting preview. And it's like, what Teofimo Lopez are we going to get is the biggest question going into this fight. Are we going to get the guy who smartly sort of outmatched Vasily Lomachenko, beat him to the punch, and was able to control most of that fight? Or are we going to get the guy who was overly emotional, didn't really follow a game plan, and just tried to knock out George Kambosos to the point where George Kambosos made him look pretty stupid and then beat him by a split decision?
I'm going to make you hold that thought for a second because I want to go back to the George Kambosos Jr. fight. Despite the fact that he had a terrible game plan, just thought he could walk in there and knock him out, I think we also have to take into consideration like all the mental stuff that's going on with him outside the ring. And I don't think we give Teofimo Lopez enough credit to like be going through all that stuff outside the ring. We know that his relationship with his dad has been kind of tumultuous since he's really rose to fame. And then you also think about the fact that, you know, the issues that he has going on with his girl, his family, and then to come back in the ring, beat Pedro Campa, right? He moved up a division, beat Sandor Martin, whether you think he beat him or not. And I think mental strength, like a lot of us are like here talking a whole bunch of smack, but I don't think we would be able to do that. Like, I know I probably wouldn't be. I probably would be a mess. You know what I mean? And I listen, Bryan knows I'm a robot, but I think we don't give him, I think the mental toughness part is totally different. Like Teofimo Lopez has been through stuff, dude. And so I give him the edge there against a guy like Josh Taylor. Right?
Not to say Josh Taylor hasn't been through shit.
No, but
I think all boxers to some degree have, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But like it hasn't been out in the media like that. Like Teofimo Lopez is dealing with so much more scrutiny than Josh Taylor is. And so that has to be taken into consideration because we're just like, yo, what's going on with him? He doesn't look right. Like probably because like things are going on outside the ring. And when those things are a factor in your life, it changes things. So I think we have to give Teofimo Lopez a little bit of grace because the things that he's achieved, all these people that are talking smack, I doubt you could achieve what he has. And so that's the thing. Like we could be boxing fans and we could just talk about, oh, this guy didn't have a good performance, but I like to see you try to do what he does. Those are just facts.
I think the story is interesting if he does win this fight, even though it may just lead to a rematch. But listen, if Teofimo Lopez beats Josh Taylor again, this is somebody who was undisputed in this weight class. Vasily Lomachenko was the best at 135 when Teofimo Lopez beat him. So we're going to have an interesting conversation about Lopez going forward if he were to beat this fight and do so convincingly. Like if it's at least 8-4, even if it's a stoppage, which the odds for that are crazy. But we'll get more into that on the betting portion.
Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow. You know what? I was going to say, I think I know how the fight's going to end. I just don't know who I'm going to go with.
We'll save that for the betting portion of this tomorrow.
Exactly. Remember, if you like the video, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. If you have already, we appreciate you. If you're listening to this on the audio version, make sure to hit that rate and review. Give us that 5-star. But most importantly, we want to hear your comments. What do you think happens if Josh Taylor wins? Who would you like to see him fight? Do you think Teofimo Lopez also beats Josh Taylor? And what do you think about the whole mental aspect? We want to hear from you because here at TheMandatory, of course, this is an interactive show. So thank you so much for rocking with us. And we'll be back with some more content this week. Also, Bryan, going to be at a lot of the pressers. So we're going to have some really dope content for you this week. Thanks so much for rocking with us. And we'll be back with some more fight stuff later this week.